Here's the second installment of my Dickens spoof. This time, it is a senior Oliver Twist traveling in a stagecoach, and he has strange traveling companions. Charles Dickens himself masquerading as an elderly suitor to Estella, who is pretending to be a French lady, and they are out on an amorous twist. This is taken from my Dickens spoof. Here it is, Messrs. Dickens, Doyle and Woodhouse, and this is me again, Neelum, Saran, Gour. So did I decline in a speeding coach, basking in luxurious thoughts and most pleasing cogitations, that fateful night when my troubles began. Nigh midnight it was, I recollect, when at an unknown stage in the journey was I joined by a strange gentleman, a well-conditioned gentleman to all appearances, and companioning him a lady, veiled and mute. I am not chary of consorting with strangers, but it is my prudent practice to measure with the utmost caution the class and the calling of my fellow passengers ere I make any overtures of cordiality. The outward appearance of the gentleman in question, I speedily assured myself, afforded no scope for apprehension, for he was an old man of respectable, not to say venerable countenance, of a mild and benevolent aspect, and a singularly engaging cast of features. The lady who sat next him vouchsafed no glimpse of her countenance, bowed and veiled as she was, and naught could I observe save a pair of exceedingly neat ankles encased in tiny morocco boots, a snowy neck, and a pair of quiescent arms folded demurely upon her sober volume. At length, he addressed me thus: "I beg your pardon, sir. I haven't the pleasure of knowing you, but if you can do me the kindness of allowing me the temporary use of that handsome ulster there, I shall be much beholden to you. My lady here is cold, and the weather and the hour are not adapted to such flimsy accoutrement. But women will be women, tut." There was no denying that the gentle soul was most unsuitably habited for the journey, the night being raw and cold, and the elements blowing and sleeting hard. It was a night to be hooded and fur-booted in, and here was this frail creature a shiver in her flimsy garments. My heart was touched with penitence and concern, and all that was man in me uprose in sympathy and unutterable solicitude. "Oh, but of course, sir," rejoined I, "it is no inconvenience. May I have the honour, madam?" With which words I hastily removed my greatcoat without a moment's irresolution, prudently retrieving from its commodious pocket my morocco money bag and transferring it to my waistcoat. Most carefully did he drape it round her form, adjusting its folds over her comely person with the tenderest concern. "And now, sir," spake he in splendid magnanimity, "I do regret these invasions of your privacy, but I behold my lady yet a chill. So if you forgive my pertinacity, I may venture to suggest that some restorative quotation of a vinous character may prove conducive to relieving her distress. And as I am myself not in possession of any such palliative, I will ask leave as a man and a brother to solicit your free-handed assistance. Will you have the goodness, sir? I am a continent man myself, but as it chanced, I had among my effects a case bottle of excellent cherry brandy. Drawing it out right willingly, I earnestly expressed my hope that she partake of that restorative, that indeed it was no inconvenience, nay, that it would but sweeten my own travels. "Capital," quoth the other, "it shall answer the purpose." "Thank you kindly, sir. The obligation that you've laid me under can find no vent in words. There is nothing like honest, goodly British company, of which, sir, you have proved yourself a salutary example. I expressed myself much obliged, stating that it behoved us to be mindful of our fellow passengers, and that I derived no inconsiderable pleasure in being of service to others. Oh, very rich indeed, sir, cried he in hearty approbation. We shall all be in better heart for this blessed brew. If there be brandy to hand, there is no time like the present. With the utmost delicacy our fair companion took a quick swig, having executed this task with that nicety that I was momentarily shaken. 'Tis no vulgar drunken drab that I speak of, gentlemen, but a mighty civil gentlewoman. Yet was I loth, sir, to form a low estimate of her. My faith, you might say, was not entirely destroyed, though as the moments passed, it was plain to me that she, so long a sober spectatress, was now indeed somewhat in liquor, for she did lift a pair of vinous eyes, beauteous in their forgetfulness, and blow an ardent kiss upon her dainty fingers, which last proceeding filled me with profound disbelief. French, whispered the gentleman, leaning forward in the middle of his discourse and speaking in a severe parenthesis. I have the honor and happiness, said he aloud, of presenting Madame Estelle, a young lady of the French nation, and added, Sotos, a damn fine gal, egad. I made bold to inquire what business brought them together. It is my happy privilege, rejoined he, to conduct Madame Estelle through our great land, pointing out its diverse attractions. We are out for a season's pleasurings, and I may tell you, sir, that I have the tenderest interest in her sojourn. I could of a sudden not divest myself of a sinister misgiving. Indeed, while the above discourse was holding, our little lady had evinced indications of growing progressively sportive, for she did twine her arms about him, pressing his hand to her lips and drawing it through her arm, performing all those little offices, exhibiting little testimonies of affection that bespoke the tenderest ardor. Yet, as I sat, with not a manly eye therein unmoistened, and she did fondly play with his fulsome mustachios, than which there can't be a more touching proof of regard, the gentleman across me started visibly upon the unexpected application of her rich lips to his countenance, and I did not fail to notice that the lips above alluded to seemed especially built by the maker for bringing into contact with other foreign substances. Of what ensues, little need be told, lest the squeamish moralist cry, "Fie!" Suffice it to declare that the conduct of my fellow passengers was execrable and cannot be too severely reprehended. Something held my attention engaged, which afforded strong confirmatory evidence that my excellent companion had acceded to her overtures, for the ulster wherewith they were shrouded from observation underwent the strangest agitation, and there rose concurrently sundry rustlings and rapid flutterings which justified the inference that industrious connubial researches were holding, and that some tumultuous, unmentionable activity was in progress. I endeavored to interpose, but attention was otherwise engaged, and when the lady's countenance did altogether vanish beneath the ulster, I had a giddy consciousness, a knowledge, how brought to me I know not, darkly guessed, of her final fall from rectitude. The proceeding last mentioned was an aggravation of my trials, and I was constrained to keep a dark and unwinking watch, reduced to one prodigious, concentrated stare, my blood boiling with honest British indignation. It may readily be imagined that the events that occurred did not improve my temper. Events such as cannot, nay, must not be encouraged to proceed advantageously in the presence of a third party. Oh, heaven grant me its indulgence that I needs must be a witness to such outrage. Yet it was, I do grant, a most diverting spectacle. It is a great trial to my feelings to recall that this spectacle of connubial felicity played the very deuce with me. So violently provoked was I, who have e'er known a restless couch and an unquiet heart, I whom it has pleased God to afflict with so much solitude. I am not a man of strong imagination, but as I did divine and image the situation neath the agitating ulster, my blood was conscious of a terrible sensation. No, not a sigh nor rustle, but fell upon my heart with wild imaginings, and threw me into a dreadful state. And while my fellow passengers were thus pleasingly employed, my condition announced itself in awful language, and I became, I grieve to recollect, an interesting case of incipient combustion. It was at this juncture that the ulster underwent an ultimate agitation, and I really deduced that in my vicinity had been attained that highest point of human joys, that crowning circumstance of corporeal hopes, and presently did his countenance emerge into view as ruddy as the rising morn. How now, sir, quoth he, regarding me with interest, a fit of abstraction, casting about for the philosopher's stone, or be your wits wool-gathering as mine have lately been? I did require, I do not deny, some recalling to myself. Sir, said I, for I felt it incumbent upon me to remonstrate. This is an affront to understanding, an outrage upon the credulity of human nature. Oh, conceded he, coughing gently as he imparted the confidence. We do plead guilty of committing an indiscretion, as your true-bred Englishman would describe the pleasing employment. I bootlessly endeavoured to stare him out of countenance. I thought it not unlikely, observed I dryly.